All right, welcome back, everybody. It's September 5th, and we're already talking about winter. This is going to be my first release of the winter 2013-2014 forecast. I'll also tweak this and re-release another forecast at the end of November with a final perspective of what the winter is going to look like. So this is far off, and I'm sure a few things will change. But with that being said, there's a few strong signals that I'm looking at that are suggestive of what really this winter's going to pan out to be. I want to start off here just for basic discussion and take a look at really the first part of this forecast, which is really the oceans. And the ocean temperatures really dictate exactly what's going to happen around the globe from a seasonal perspective. So where the ocean's below normal, it has a certain effect. Where the ocean's above normal, it has a certain effect. And I want you to focus on this region right here. This is where you've heard of the term La Nina or El Nino. This is the region it is. So La Nina is when you have colder than normal water just to the west of South America, and El Nino is when you have warm water just to the west of South America. Based on what this water pattern does heading into the winter, largely dictates how the jet stream is going to set up over the United States. So the winter forecast you're about to see is largely going to be dependent on what the models are predicting are going to happen to this body of water right here. A few secondary measures we're going to look at is going to be are they going to maintain these high water temperatures off the Pacific? Will the Atlantic stay warm, which it will? And what will happen up in the North Pole? Will this water stay warm? Generally, when you have warm water, you'll have higher pressure regions, and when you have colder water, lower pressure in some cases. So that higher pressure leads to blocking. And if you remember from last winter, you want high pressure up in these areas, so when storms develop, they don't just cut up into the country and they actually reform off the coast and produce snowstorms. So this is what it looks like now. Here's what the models are projecting it's going to look like for December, January, and February. So notice, if you look in this region, we went from colder temperatures to warmer temperatures. That indicates a weak El Nino is taking place, and that's largely going to dictate, again, what's going to happen to the jet stream. Also, you see this little horseshoe of cold water here. That's called a negative PDO. That's also going to affect the climate on the East Coast, and as you can see, you have warm water here, mostly warm water in the Atlantic. That creates a very healthy storm environment. So if storms form, they're going to come up the coast. But also, it provides opportunity for ridging to develop too, or in other words, heat from the southeast coming up during the wintertime. So you'll see how that all relates. Let's first take a look at what the models are going to be talking about for this region here in terms of if it's going to be an El Nino or La Nina. So you can see this is a blend of all the models. And if you look here, December, January, February, you can see the trend line is about pretty much a very, very weak El Nino, so a measure of around, say, 0.3, 0.4. And what I did was I looked at all the years in the past that had weak El Ninos. I also looked at other years that had a warm Atlantic and also that PDO I talked about on the Pacific. And I said, okay, what did the atmosphere look like in those years? What was the temperature profile? And this is what came out. So the years I'm looking at are 1980, 1953, 2004. You can see you have a warmer than normal west, a seasonable east, and you have some low pressure off the east coast. From a blocking perspective, again, here's that high pressure area is what you want in the winter. You can see we have a very low pressure center off the coast. I would guess that in this setup you could see this low pressure center drift over onto the coast, which will produce big storms, but I'll get into a little bit more of that in a minute. But in general, I'm forecasting a weak El Nino based on all the modeling I'm looking at. And a weak El Nino generally looks like this. Okay, so you're going to have a strong jet, you're going to have a jet stream that splits, you have mild weather in the west, you're going to have cold shots coming down into the northeast, you're going to have seasonal weather down in the southern states, and you're going to have mostly probably a dry climate in Texas. But what this does is when you have two jet streams splitting like this because of the high pressure, basically you give opportunity for the northern branch and the southern branch of jet streams to redevelop a storm off the coast. Now sometimes, depending on how big this ridge pumps up here, you're going to have storms that will cut in. So I think there will be some rain events this winter along the East Coast. But I also think there's opportunities for a couple big storms to really blow up and produce above average snowfall. So I'll go into the maps on that in a minute. Here's what the climate models are predicting. Again, similar to what I have. Again, high pressure north of Greenland, lower pressures along the East Coast. Again, here's that lower pressure off in the Pacific. I think if you really break it down, here's my jet stream forecast. I think this northern branch is going to fluctuate between giving a more zonal flow across the country and also that elongated ridge. When we go into this ridge mode, I think the southern branch will get active and you'll see storms develop somewhere in this region. And again, Some will cut up and some will redevelop off the coast and be blocked by that high pressure. What you're seeing, the models are indicated. Here's another model. You can see, again, high pressure up in Greenland, low pressures on the East Coast. So, again, this is all setting up for a pattern you want to see if you like snowstorms. And I'll mention that high pressure in Greenland is very important. That's called North Atlantic Oscillation. And this is basically what happens in its negative phase, which is when there is high pressure. You can see it pushes the jet stream down, it ridges it out in the west, and again, you have an opportunity for storms and cold weather to form. So let's get right to it. What is the winter outlook going to be, and what are some of the other minor factors I'm looking at? Well, first, the minor factors, sunspot activity is actually projected to increase, but this year it's been pretty low so far, so that's good, because usually when sunspot activity is high, you don't see that high pressure up in Greenland, which would help produce big storms. Secondary to that, sea ice, which I won't show you a graphic on, but sea ice is still below normal in the northern hemisphere, so below normal sea ice again also indicate higher pressures up in this area here. So let's first look at what do I think are the temperature outlook going to be for this winter. Right now, again, I have below normal temps for the central United States. I have slightly below normal for the Northeast. I think this is going to be a winter characterized by warm spells, but also very cold spells. I think that jet stream, again, at times is going to dip, and at times is going to run up into the lakes a little bit, giving us unseasonable weather and seasonable weather. Again, though, that gives us the opportunity to produce more storms because the jet stream will be fluctuating. Right below that, the axis of the jet stream is going to be, I have warmer than normal temperatures. In terms of snowfall, again, I have above normal snowfall for most of the eastern third of the country, the northeastern third of the country. I think you're going to have a lot of clipper systems that come through this area. A lot of those clippers are redeveloped. And when this southern stream down here gets active, I think that's when you're really going to see the big storms blow up. And I'm predicting right now we'll see 2 above average snowfall events this winter. I think we'll see one before January 15th. I think the other one's going to be in mid to late February. I think we'll see 2 bigger storms. And in between that, I think we'll see lighter snowfalls in the order of, say, 2 inches, 3 inches, maybe up to 6 inches as some of these clippers come in. But there's going to be warm spells, too. So don't expect a brutally cold winter. I think when it's all said and done, slightly below normal for us. Out west, I think warmer than normal. Out here, due to the ridging I talked about in the seasonable outlook for the southeast. In general, no snow down here, so I wouldn't focus on any snow happening there. But that's basically it, guys. Again, this forecast is based on the critical area, which is this area for the winter. Will warm water develop there, or will the cold water stay? If the cold water persists, this forecast is going to be a little bit different. If that happens, I'll update it in November. But again, I'm forecasting. I've been looking at the models for the last few months, and they really want to bring a very, very weak El Nino, which again would produce a situation similar to this. Similar to this, where you have the jet stream splitting and redeveloping on the East Coast. So that's all for now. Thanks for checking in. I'm actually going to release a text version of this forecast for an easier read if you don't have time to listen. But that will probably come out early next week. But again, overall, I think a slightly colder than normal winter, characterized by cold shots and above normal spurts at times. I think you're going to have 1 or 2 big storms, mainly probably towards February on the East Coast. So overall, I think it's going to be an exciting winter when it's all said and done. Thanks for checking in.